We're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to be mindful of our time and Dr. Rajni's time. So we'll get started, and as folks trickle in, that will be lovely as well. So, good morning. My name is Taylor Teichman. I am a youth development coordinator for Pennsylvania's Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness program. Thank you so much for joining us for our ECHIA Learning Series, Guidance for Successful Educational Journey. We're so excited that you are joining us today and this month. And so now, some of you may recognize our guest speaker today from our restorative practice series as well. The beloved Dr. Rajni Shankar-Brown is with us this morning. She is an internationally renowned and author, award-winning, community engaged educator, scholar, artist, poet, author, and human rights activist. Dr. Rajni is a professor at Stetson University in DeLand, Florida, and the president of the National Coalition for the Homeless, the nation's oldest advocacy and direct service organization supporting people experiencing homelessness. Her work has been featured on over 100 media sites, including CBS, The Washington Post, and the Seattle Times. And if you were with us at Paving the Way in October, you hopefully had the opportunity to also be in community with Dr. Rajni, as she was one of our keynote speakers at the conference in October. So good morning. Thank you. Truly a gift to be in your presence this morning, Dr. Rajni.
Thank you so much, Taylor. I really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful to be in this space and grateful for CSC for creating spaces such as this, and for everyone who's on today for making time to come and join and pause in the busyness of the middle of the week and all that is going on this time of year. Thank you so much for coming and just being with us. And I hope today you leave with some ideas. I also hope you feel restored, you get some inspiration. And I know that for me, I am just grateful to be in beloved community with folks doing good work that our world so direly needs. So thank you all so much. I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me as I pull it up. All right. Taylor, how does that look? Can you see okay? Okay, fantastic. Well, I am really, really delighted because I get to share about something I am extremely passionate about today, which is really thinking about arts integration for students experiencing homelessness, especially thinking about it as pathways to healing. And I'll start by sharing with everyone just kind of vulnerable share and moment here. For me, the arts as a whole, right? Just holistically thinking about the arts, it is not only a pathway to healing, but for me in my own personal journey, quite literally has saved my life. And so in fact, I have a poem. I do a lot of performance poetry or spoken word poetry, as well as write poems on the page. And I'm really, really grateful because no matter what traumas I was experiencing or what our family was going through, poverty and homelessness, there's a lot of trauma and layers of violence, as Mahatma Gandhi would put it. And no matter what we were going through, I felt really, really lucky because my mom, was just such a wise and beautiful teacher in her own way. And at a very young age, she handed me a journal and some colored pencils and pens, and she really taught me to honor that kind of sacred space within the pages, no matter what was going on. It's somewhere I could feel safe, I could express, I could go to. And so that really, seeded my love, where I just started drawing and writing poetry and expressing myself. And I wouldn't share really my art and poetry much later in life as an adult until now. And a lot of why I share it now publicly is also to inspire youth that I work with. So I have a mentoring program, children and youth, really working K through 12. And, I want every child to have the gift and the tools of expression, replenishment, all of the gifts that the arts offer. And so that's a big focus in my mentoring program and even the advocacy work that I do. And I think we're gathered at a time right now where we have a lot of uncertainty ahead of us in terms of how finances are going to be affected for various kinds of projects and even SNAPs, fundamental programs that families are connected to and depend on. We're also at a time I can share with you, while I can't share the specific data because we're about to publish and release it, but I can tell you that with our annual homelessness assessment report that we've been working on, it is very, very distressing. From 2020 to 22 to 23, we saw significant rise in unsheltered and sheltered homelessness. That rise has continued to surge even here into 23, 24. You're going to see very, very high numbers. And again, even within that, certain communities and states that have magnified compounded issues. I live in one of those states, Florida. Pennsylvania, where many of you are situated, is another one of those states. And we start to factor in many different things, including child and youth well-being. And I think it merits our immediate attention to not only continue to do this important work, but to think about how do we make sure we're showing up in this work for our students, for our families in ways that also center healing, provide hope, allow pathways as we think about all of the traumas. So it's not just being trauma informed, but really being healing centered. And the arts offer this kind of multitude of opportunity to create pathways to healing. And so today we're going to kind of dive in. I'm going to share different ideas. I have many of this, a lot of this comes out of my research and a book that's going to be coming out in 2025. So I'm really excited. I just want these strategies, these ideas, and even understanding the power of arts integration to be kind of widely disseminated into all of our work in communities because it's so vital in so many ways. So again, thank you for being here. And as we go through today, we will use the chat. So feel free to use the chat feature. Also at the end, certainly if you have questions, feel free to just come on, and ask. This space is really for you all. So I want you to get what you need out of this and to leave really restored. So I start us off because I know that today it is Wednesday. It is December, which is hard to believe. The fall has really flown by. Many of us are, again, kind of existing with multiple tabs in our mind, very, very, very long to-do lists. And here we are in the morning on a Wednesday in December. And so I thought I would just start us off with just a moment of deep breathing to ground and center us. I also wanted to remind all of us to continue to cultivate very intentionally in our own lives ways to pour into ourselves and invest in ourselves so our spirit can continue to thrive, our light can continue to be kindled, and we can do the same for our students and families and the communities that we're working with. And so we're going to just do 2 deep belly breaths right now. And there's many ways you can do this. If you don't have a stuffy nose, you can actually inhale through your nostrils and you can hold it. We'll actually inhale for 5 counts today. We're going to hold it for 4 counts, and then we're going to exhale for 6 counts. And so I'll try to count out as we do this. Practice breathing, even allowing your belly to come out. We are seeing even through science that many times as humans now, we're kind of doing shallow breaths. And even if it's just 2 deep breaths, periodically throughout our day, there are multitudes of good health benefits for us. Our blood pressure decreases, right? Our heart rate slows down for a bit. Good positive antioxidants can kind of flow through our body. And so it's really good practice for all of us to remember, especially with the jobs that all of us do, the really heavy work that all of us are involved in. So we'll take a deep breath through your nostrils if it's not stuffy. If it's stuffy, you can just breathe through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're holding for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you find it hard to breathe in for 5 or to hold it for 4 or even to exhale slowly for 6, this is also a reminder to keep practicing that breath work, right? Breathing like anything else, it's also something that requires attention and actually skill. We do it all the time, right? Obviously to live and survive. But when you think about deep breathing, where our bellies are being expanded, our lungs are really opening up, that is actually kind of work. And we can train ourselves to breathe deeper by practice. So we're going to do it again. This time I will just use fingers to motion us with seconds instead of speaking, so you can just really be in stillness. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Yeah. And it's really, a great practice to just even let our stress go momentarily. And even deep breathing, right? With students that we're working with, reminding them to take a deep breath. It can be very, very useful in our toolboxes as we're kind of navigating the maze of life. So thank you for breathing with me this morning. So again, gratitude. I know so many of you are homeless liaisons. You're working in different capacities, wearing 12, 20, 30 hats, really, really tending and caregiving. And I am so grateful because, again, we are at a time where when we think about poverty and homelessness, we are seeing historic highs. And what we know is the consequences, the results, the implications, the connections with poverty and homelessness, all of the adverse impacts can affect a child's kind of life trajectory if it's not interrupted or if people don't care. And so to have individuals who care, who show up, that's amazing. So thank you. In a way, we're talking about art today, but I think the work that we do in many ways is art in motion as well, because each day we're building relationships, we're cultivating hope, right? All of that is art in this most spectacular way, adding goodness to our world. So a quick kind of reflection point. What is your favorite season and why? And you can share in the chat. So, a big part of us coming together is also just being able to take a moment to slow down and to share and be in community. So I'll give everyone a moment. And I will add my response in the chat as well. Beautiful. I see a lot of responses coming in. This is great. So I see fall, leaves changing, big cozy sweaters, bonfires, warm drinks. Oh, that's beautiful. I have the whole visual. Taylor has painted, or Melissa, that's Melissa. Melissa painted for us. I love that. Matt, hi, Matt. I didn't know Matt was on here. Yay. Matt says, I love fall. I think my best memories have taken place in the fall season. That's beautiful. Elizabeth says, I love fall because my birthday is in October. So growing up, I always looked forward to it. I also love the trees and the weather when it gets chilly. Love it. Taylor, summer. Okay, Taylor, I can see summer for Taylor. Absolutely. Summer for those early sunrises and chirping birds. Beautiful. Jennifer, spring and summer. So kind of a juxtaposition of seasons. Ben, hello, Ben. Spring, I love the renewal and hope for sunny days. Fall, the colors of preparation for upcoming fun holiday sports. Thank you, Jerry. Crystal, spring and summer. Love it. Coral, fall, perfect weather, and cozy sweaters with coffee. Yes, cheers to coffee. What would we do without it? I'm lifting my coffee. Yeah, you might not be able to see it, but I'm cheersing. Shannon, I think spring is my favorite with all the new colors and warm change. Oh, Hannah, spring, things in bloom, feeling the fresh beginnings. Nancy, fall, I love the season of fall in PA, weather-wise as well, the significance of changing leaves, what is coming next. We got another one for fall from Christina, the vibrant colors, I love it. Blending of warm days, chilly nights. I find it a very comforting time of year. Carol says summer and fall are my favorite. I feel the most productive and energetic. That's great. Cassandra, cooler colors, cooler weather, time to slow down, fall. I love autumn as well. We don't get the seasons in Florida much, but I still love autumn, the magic of the leaves, pumpkin spice. Linda says fall. Catherine says seasons change, just seasons change in general, right? And Linda had said colorful leaves and crisp air. I love it. These are all beautiful. Barb says the peacefulness of white winter. Lovely, lovely. That's beautiful. And then I see a coffee. Taylor's putting that coffee emoji going. Yes. Thank you all for taking a moment to share. That was just a burst of joy to just connect and see, what do people enjoy about seasons? And I also kind of ground us in this today because seasons have their own kind of art. When you think about arts integration, we can often look to nature to really get inspired. And many of you mentioned so many of the things from vibrant colors to even thinking about the crisp air, the feeling, right, that we get sometimes with seasons, all of that kind of moving and swirling in different ways. So again, even as we think about these seasons, there's all of the beauty and the joy and the lovely pieces we need to celebrate and uplift and cherish. There's also pieces all of us always want to stay cognizant. And in the work that we do, we are often probably confronted with some of these harsh realities of seasons as well. What is it like sleeping when the streets get really cold? We lose so many lives each winter to ice and snow. We lose lives each summer here where I live, hydration from dehydration and rising heat indexes due to climate change and environmental issues is very real and taking more and more lives. In fact, heat-related deaths are one of the #1 deaths in the United States in terms of weather-related deaths. But what most people don't realize is the majority are people experiencing homelessness, unsheltered, with no safe place to kind of shield, right, from the really weather the weather, if you will. And so again, in the midst of this, we know that there is lots of trauma. There's a violence that comes with poverty and layers of violence, again, as Mahatma Gandhi would write, and even in the civil rights movement, right? Dr. King would remind us, right, about economic, racial justice, and all of these that were kind of considered evils that exist, but call on us to also dismantle, mitigate, and heal. And that's where, the arts kind of come in. I ground us also in this image by Tony Roth, right? Inequality, equality, equity, justice, our North Star. And in order to have equality, we have to have equity. And here's what we know. When we talk about equity, the arts have to also be part of this conversation. And we're doing studies now, research that continues to show the wide gaps and disparities between even who has access to the arts in the United States and who does not. You only need to look at our public schools, Often you can find, right, in so many different school districts and communities, high poverty schools, and this is often connected also to standardized testing pressures, often have eliminated the arts or really, really have cut the arts down in ways where students do not have a lot of access points sometimes in school. And so one of the things we need to do is we need to advocate for the arts, but we also, in our own capacities of work, if we are able to integrate and bridge and bring even creative, contemplative, artistic moments into our even our just relationship building and interactions with students and families, that can be very, very powerful. And it can also equip students to have those tools, even if institutionally they're not often getting, right, those vital tools. And so it's really about equity at the heart of this, and a big part of justice, because healing is very critical to actually advancing justice as well. So when we talk about the arts, there are so many different genres, right? From music to visual arts to theater. You think about even digital arts today. Students playing with technology in different ways to create graphics or to even create and digitize music for sharing purposes. There are so many powerful forms of art. And, part of this is we know that when children are born, all of us as human beings are naturally creative. We come out of the womb with this kind of boundless creativity. You only need to look at a little kid, and even if they don't have much to play with and they're outside, they will find a stick, a stone, the imagination will go, right? We find ways to create. Even toddlers, right? They let their emotions out. If they hear a good song, it doesn't matter who's looking, it doesn't matter what's going on, they're going to let their moves fly, right? And that is in our bones. It's part of our spirit in so many ways. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's squashed out of us, right? These creative kinds of opportunities. They're squashed out of us. And the divide between access, right, to having these kind of rich art experiences also is very real, where you find that students who may be more economically resourced have more opportunities to perhaps take piano lessons or take dance classes, or even just going to things like plays, experiencing and being part of artistic productions, if you will. So arts integration not only offers a creative outlet for children and youth experiencing homelessness, but it can also serve as a crucial tool for emotional healing, personal growth, and also community building. And that is vital, right? That is vital. And I find that with the students that I work with, even if it is a new form of art that they're uncomfortable with, or even an artistic exercise, right? Because it's not all about everyone has to be this masterful artist, but in fact, the process is what is important here. Just as much as, we often focus a lot on product, but really here, the healing often comes in the actual process of just creating and doing. So it's not this kind of final product we have to be so focused on, but it's just allowing ourselves to express, to engage, to allow ourselves the gift of just being part of something creative and artistic. And in that process, we have so many benefits, including healing, right? Including building of community often. And some of this happens organically. Some of it certainly can happen intentionally as well as we plan and organize our work. So, I say the arts can help us to express and process complex emotions, develop healthy coping strategies, and regain a sense of dignity and hope. Mindful arts integration can nourish our body, mind, heart, spirit. It can foster resilience, promote social emotional well-being, and we have lots of hardcore science and research now showing how it can increase academic engagement. And that academic engagement, right, leads to also all kinds of wonderful outcomes, from academic achievement all the way to thinking about college and career readiness, right? Thinking about career pathways, thinking about exploring diverse skill sets as we navigate the world that is ever so changing and uncertain in ways. So one of the major benefits of the arts is emotional expression and regulation. Especially when you are given opportunities to engage in creativity without judgment and just encouraged to have this safe space, it can be a real nonverbal outlet for expressing really difficult emotions. Often, as humans, there are things that we may experience that we cannot put into words, and that may be for different reasons. One, it just may be so traumatic, it's hard to articulate or even triggering to try to articulate into those words. And so this is where, even if you think about the field of art therapy, where, the arts are often used, right, as therapy in ways to heal. And, emotions can be overwhelming for all ages. Even as adults, right? I'm sure all of us have had days where we feel totally overwhelmed. Right now, we're living at a time where anxiety is super high across the scale. We're seeing really high mental and behavioral health challenges across generations and ages, actually. But our children and youth, for many of them, if they're not given these healthy tools to be able to express and cope and manage, and this is the same even for adults, but if we don't have those tools, that can be really, really significantly damaging and devastating, right, to an individual's kind of journey and their own life. It can even take your life, right? And on the other side of that, the beautiful side of that is if we give these kind of healthy tools to cope with stress, to express in ways, right? And again, it's not about being a perfect artist or perfect poet, or that's not what that's about. It's about saying we're going to kind of express in a way that's creative, that allows us to just feel, acknowledge, heal, go through all of these healthy processes that we need as human beings. And creative activities, painting, music, drama, right? It allows us to externalize our feelings in ways and even kind of get them out in ways, acknowledge, even face feelings that are uncomfortable. And that's really important. It's a big part of healing. So here I have artwork by Cindy Bernier called Parts of the Whole. Right? And when you look at this, it's really quite abstract, but you actually can start to see many things if you really study this long enough. In the center, there's kind of a white dove flying. I don't know if anybody can see that with the wing. You can start to see as you back up human forms in different ways. But the idea is all of us are connected. Our emotions, our life stories, are also connected. And they're a big part of who we are. They're also a big part of how we often operate or show up. You think about triggers, that can happen anytime. And so having tools to be able to deal with that is really, really important. And right now we're at a time where, many school districts and schools, standardized testing has put so much pressure on kind of content and standards. The social emotional pieces are often not being given enough time, and in some places, non-existent. And so again, how do we make sure that we're giving our students these rich opportunities that are needed? And so even as we think about grounding ourselves and healing, exploring, because different creative activities may resonate better for different people, right? So somebody here might say, we might try journaling and that really sticks. It feels good. It feels right. Somebody else might say, I really don't like this, right? It's causing me more stress. I'm not enjoying this. And that's okay. So part of what we want to do is we want to expose children and youth to a variety of art forms and creative activities and allow them the agency to also find what works for them, right? What are the things that resonate or heal or feel good to them? And that may look different, right, for different students. Another benefit, accomplishment and agency. So children and youth facing housing instability and experiencing homelessness, when you are experiencing housing instability, whether it's evictions or being shuffled right from place to place, when you are living in a car, right, with your family, or in a motel room with 8 other families, or on the street, often it can feel not only overwhelming and a lot of emotions, but this loss of control. Because there's sometimes things that as a child, as somebody, a youth, you can't control. And that is just a really, really enormous feeling to have to deal with. And so one of the beautiful things about the arts is it allows students to create something, whether it's from their own imagination or experience. And in the process of creation, again, not about the masterpiece, but just the creating, it can provide this sense of accomplishment, and it can remind us of our own agency. When you give me that sketchbook and that pen, and you allow me the freedom to just take that and do what I wish in there, I have agency. That's something I can control. I can put what I want to in there. I can draw where I want to in there, right? I have control over that. And that can be really, really huge and important for students to feel, right? Even have experiences throughout their school day where at least they have moments of that. Art activities can empower students to make choices about their work, foster confidence and a sense of ownership over their creative process. And there, I'm going to share some different strategies as we go today as well, and all kinds of budget strategies, right? Because I know we're all on a budget. We are in education in some sort of capacity, so money does not grow on trees. If anybody does have a money tree, let me know. Give me a little root cutting, please. I could use that. So here, this is a pretty simple activity. You get a paper plate. You can actually buy for pretty cheap these kind of cutouts of different shapes. You can have it from paper. They even make like environmentally sound foam now. So it's like this kind of biodegradable foam pieces that you can buy. So, you can do it however you wish. Sometimes I actually have the students, because they enjoy, even my teens that I work with, the teens actually love this. I will bring different kind of hole punchers and scissors and say cut out shapes, right? And they love it. They just sit in a circle, they talk, they're just cutting out different shapes, right? Circles and diamonds and squares. And it's something that focuses, sometimes having little tasks, creative little tasks that we're involved in, it can actually really release calming pieces into the body. It takes our focus away from all the stuff swirling, right? This big storm, and it gets us kind of quieting down, focused on something. You get the reward of finishing, right? So, I doing this activity just recently, right? Group of teens are sitting there, they're cutting, and and I could hear one of them say, a perfect diamond, right? And they were like really proud of that diamond, right? And it's these little wins within that, these little celebrations. And then what you can do with the shapes is you can just keep them handy. You can put them into a shoebox or a big Ziploc bag, right? And this is a great activity too if you have little ones. Like Taylor, I know, has a little one, right? So great, it can be a really good activity. And then almost like a mandala, which is kind of something in our Eastern culture we often practice and do, which are kind of different shapes of symmetry. We play with design, but it's very, very meditative, right? You can allow a student to just make a design, right? Make a design. And it's not something that has to be permanent. One thing that's nice about this activity is for some students, if you give them the paintbrush, right, or something is really permanent, it makes them intimidated or nervous, right? I'm going to make a mistake. I'm not going to do it right. So one of the things that's nice about this oh, it doesn't look good there, or I don't like it there, or I feel like I messed up the design. Boom, easy. Let me start over, right? Let me move the piece. So there's that kind of element for a lot of students, which can be very handy because some students can get a lot of stress actually or trauma if they haven't been exposed enough and they're not comfortable yet, right, with certain art tools, if that makes sense. You can also have them paint the paper plate, right? Just kind of painting can be very, very peaceful as well. So not hard. This also doesn't take a lot of time, right? It's something you can easily do even when you're sitting and connecting with the student before you get into a meeting. Both of you kind of make a different design and share it with each other. And sometimes you'll be surprised. I've had students create something and then they like it so much. They're like, oh, can I glue this down? I really like this. Yeah, of course. And then they have this cool piece of art, right, that they've actually created. I've also done collaborative things where, with some of the students in my mentoring group, they've created these, they like their design so much, they glue them down, and then we make kind of hanging mobiles, right? So here's your art piece individually. Now, when we see it all hanging all together, look at the collective art that we have made. And there's a real beauty in that as well, right? And I like it. You can incorporate different colors. So that's, really fun. So connection and community are really big. We need community. We need people. Uh, you know, Homelessness, often when you are experiencing traumas, homelessness, there's often sense of real isolation. It can be very, very isolating, especially, if you don't have a lot of trusted spaces or safe spaces, you can really be and just let your guard down. And so if you cultivate kind of spaces within the creative space that are safe, where people can be vulnerable, where people, if they don't want to share, don't have to share. They can just create, right? Those spaces are so needed. Sometimes it's just sitting quietly, but you're around other people and you're in a safe setting and you're doing something. You don't have to always talk, right? It's what makes you feel good in those moments and what you need emotionally, socially, cognitively. And so lots of community building and thinking about building trustful environments, right? And you can think about different art projects, even collaborative art projects that can really bring students together in different ways. It can also build the strengthening bond. If you're creating something, a student's creating something, then you have that share. That's a way to build a bridge, right? As you're sharing, and it opens up other kinds of opportunities sometimes for stories, things that come up. So here I have two other examples, right? You can purchase, certainly. You also can actually print out your own kind of pieces and put together kind of a big coloring mural on a wall. So this is really fun. You kind of have it and just place it up there. It might be up there for the course of a unit in a school, or maybe if you have a nonprofit, you just kind of have it in the background. You have coloring supplies sitting there. And whenever a student needs a break, they can just go pick up a coloring tool and just color into that, right? And everybody's adding freely into this. There's no wrong, no judgment. We're all just coloring. And you'll be amazed how many students love and they look forward to this, or even when they're upset, they soon learn they can go there and it can be a place of just calmness. And then the beautiful thing is when you're finished with it, right, you have this beautiful work of art as well that's been collaboratively created in your space. One thing that I like to do, so with my students, we don't have a permanent space. So our meetings, we kind of rotate, if that makes sense. We don't have a building to really meet. So I have created this, but I do have it in sections. So if we're in a new space, I have to kind of section it back up each time, but I have brought the little like Velcro sticky tabs, so I can do that easily without ruining the art. When the students finish it, what I like to do is take a photo of it, and then I actually create that into like a little postcard where they can actually write a note to each other to cheer each other up and to keep it if they want, or even a magnet, right? If they have a place to put the magnet, if not, stickers, they love stickers, right? And they have this kind of memory of, and it brings back good memories for them often too. Another example here, a drum circle. So if you have access to different drums, you can certainly do a drum circle where you teach the students even something, if they've never done it, it can be a simple beat. right? And so, you start, then the students start, right? And you try to keep each other with that rhythm. You can also play with it where half of the group goes and then you're quiet, then the other half of the group goes, right? And students love it. And soon you will have, students as they get more comfortable, right? They'll say, ooh, can we play the beat to this song, right? And they start learning about music they like, they start opening up, sharing, and you can do this with any size. So, and if you don't have access to drums, you can also make your own. I've taken oatmeal cylinders, and I've made drums out of them where you take the empty oatmeal canister. You can make all kinds of musical instruments, right? Kind of recycled musical instruments, which is really fun and art creative in itself. So, another thing is doing a lot of reflective sharing, but then creating art around it. So here, I ask, what is a place that makes you feel relaxed and calm? Maybe take a second today in the chat and just share in a word or two, what is a place that makes you feel relaxed and calm? And you can use the chat box again. You see if I can pull my chat box back up. There it is. And I will add mine in the chat as well. I love this. We have the beach. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Garden. Oh, yes, gardens are very healing. Even just gardening, right? Getting our hands in soil. The forest. Absolutely. Home. Home is a great place. Beach, being in a pool, lap swimming. That's how Taylor keeps in good shape. Taylor always is in good shape. I need Taylor's secrets. Okay, Jerry says near water, creeks, lakes, the beach. Catherine says being in the woods, sitting by a stream, gardening, baking. I love it. Mountains, lake, hiking, digging in the dirt. When everyone is home together. Beautiful, Barb. These are all wonderful, right? I love it. I'm home alone with a cup of coffee. That sounds great, Carlos. That's something to savor. So, here's the thing. What you can do with this is you can do a reflective share with students where you share, where you think about a place and you have students identify. And this can be hard sometimes, right? If you don't have a lot of calm, maybe you haven't gone to a lot of places that are calm, it can be hard to identify a place that might be calming. And so sometimes it takes a little work to think and to really help, right? And allowing space and time for somebody to kind of sort through and to even imagine what is the space that would make you feel relaxed and calm, right? That's another way to kind of phrase this if somebody's having a lot of trouble, right? So they can imagine. And, and then allowing themselves to kind of think about this, and then you can actually do some sort of artistic collage or visualization or creation around that place to really get you thinking deeper about that place, but then have that as some sort of memory when you need to calm yourself. How do I visualize and go back into that place? So you can use the visualization technique of that. Which is a really good technique. There's actually academic connections there too, from reading, a lot of literacy connections to visualization. The other thing you can do is you can, this is something for all of us even, right? You can actually, you might not be able to go to the beach when you're at work, obviously, unless any of you work at the beach, which would be quite fabulous. If you know of any jobs, that sounds pretty wonderful. The woods or the lake. You might not be able to be there every day when you're working, but you could take a photograph, right, of one of those special places and have it at your desk. So when you need that moment of calm, you can look at it. You can go back to that place to center yourself. And we can teach that to our students as well, right? It can be a really great tool. Trauma care and healing. So the arts really, really help with trauma-informed care and healing-centered engagement. And again, the relaxation that comes from art, the cultivating, hope, which is really important. Now, one thing to know is if you're trying a new skill, like an art activity that's new, that can sometimes be challenging and stressful and not fun initially. And so we have to actually read into what the student needs most at that time. If the goal is to calm the student down in that moment or give them a tool for that day they're just trying to get through, we want to do something probably that's not, going to challenge them and frustrate them more, right? So maybe picking up something easy, whether it's something that we're coloring, the shapes activity I gave you, something like that. Play-Doh, right, can be great. But if we're trying to teach them a tool that might help them in the long term, right? And we're seeing this student often, something might be really challenging and frustrating first, but once they learn it, they have the reward of going through that challenge and succeeding and learning the skill. And then it can be something that they carry the rest of their life. So an example I would give you is like knitting or crocheting, right? If you've never done it and you're starting out, it can be kind of frustrating sometimes, right? If you're not getting it right away and you mess up and you're, oh, right? But once you start to get it, you get the basic stitch or and you're able to do it, there can be this really rewarding feeling. And when you get good enough, right, you've seen people probably, and some of you might be knitters on here, right, or crocheters, where they can just talk, they can sit, they can be doing things, and, they're watching a movie and their hands are just going, right? And it can be very calming. And so that can be a really good activity, to challenge and to get students through, depending again on what they need. So we have to take time to really listen to our students in those moments. And then this is an activity I love to do personally. It's kind of a guided meditation where you can write a word, center it on your piece of paper. You can do this anywhere, anytime. You can do it on a Post-it. You can do it on a big typing sheet of paper, whatever size you want to do. Write your word, whatever it's something that you want to manifest, or maybe it's an emotion you're feeling. Like I'm really angry right now, right? Or I'm really sad. You can even identify how you're feeling or manifest, right? I want to manifest joy, right, this month. So maybe I write joy in the middle. And then you can start to draw lines around the word in any sort of direction. You could do circle swirls, you can do up and down. But as you're doing it, you're breathing, inhaling all the way with one line, exhaling with all the way with one line, inhaling, exhaling. And you have to tell students it's not about perfect lines. It's about actually just doing it, right? Just feeling yourself and doing it. And you can do this with pencil, Sharpie, whatever, you have available, crayon, right? And depending on how much time, you might not have a lot of time, right? Matt might say, my calendar is so booked up today, but I need some calming moment in my day. So maybe he takes a Post-it, right? And he puts calm and he just does 6 lines, right? And does the breathing with it. Well, that can have a multitude of benefits, even though it probably only took 2 minutes, right? So think about that as well and share the tool with students. So a very silly admission that I'm going to share with all of you. I have had it's been a rough fall for me. We had 2 hurricanes that hit our family's home, like where we live. It was been devastated. Part of the home collapsed. Just really rough. I've lost loved ones, dear friends. My dad is in critical care right now. It's a lot going on. I just needed, something for myself. And I bought myself this silly Play-Doh hair cutting kit. Yes, it is for kids, but I recently bought it this fall. And when my kids saw it, they really were very confused initially because they said, "Who did you buy this for? What is it?" Because my kids are grown now. And I said, "That is mine. It is for me. And Mama's going to play. I am going to play." And I just had a ball. I sat down one afternoon by myself, made myself a cup of tea, and I was doing all kinds of fancy haircuts. I grew the hair. You can crimp it. They give you these little tools, little bows you can put in the hair. I just had a ball. I had so much fun. And then the kids came down, they found me. And then there was my son, who's almost 21. And, he said, "Can I try it, Mom? It does look kind of cool." He started doing the hair. And now, the kids randomly will be like, "Hey, y'all want to do the haircut kit?" And they're grown. But, these little things, our inner child, we forget the joy, right, of play. And play is also connected to art. It's connected to creativity. So give yourself that gift So that way you can remember and nurture the gift for others, right? And Play-Doh can be really fun. You can also make Play-Doh. You can always just have a couple tubs when a kid needs to just kind of express. It can be very therapeutic as you're pushing, as you're building. The same with Legos. I often have a little teeny bowl of Legos actually on my desk. I'm a teacher as well. So when my students come in and they're really stressed and I'm like, okay, before we dive into all of it, let's see if both of us can take these Legos and we can build a duck, right? Like something super silly. And we just sit there, build it, have fun, laugh, right? And then put the Legos back in the bowl. And then we dive into stuff that we have to do. So, have some fun. Promote the joy of creativity with the students that we're working with. And it doesn't have to be these really huge, big lessons. It can even be in just very small moments, 2-minute moments, right? That allow us to express, to laugh, to be human, to be human. So resilience, the arts encourages creative problem solving, resilience, persistence. When we're in the process of creating something, whether it's drawing, sculpture, dance, right? We learn that mistakes can become part of the process, right? If we're doing a dance and we mess up, how do we keep going? That's really an important skill for all of us because, as humans, we're going to make a lot of mistakes, all of us, right? And that doesn't stop even as we're adults, right? And so teaching kids early on, how do you kind of pick yourself back up, right? And work with that. And that's beautiful. I think a lot of really, really amazing artists have even talked about how sometimes their favorite pieces of art, visual artists even, and sculptural artists have talked about the mistakes, right? Ended up leading to something totally different, but ended up being like something magnificent, right? And they were able to, initially frustrated, but then were able to really reimagine. And that's a beautiful skill set. It's a healthy way to distract ourselves, to emotionally process, and to do so in a positive way, to build those strong roots, right? So no matter what's going on, I might be in the middle of a shelter where there's complete chaos. But if I can kind of turn inward into something that brings me that peace, that can be huge, right? In those moments in my day, which leads to a better week, right? Which leads to better health outcomes, all of it. And I know we're almost at time, but I'm coming to a close here. I have so many more activities. I just love talking about this stuff and I love doing it. If we're in person, I'd be like letting us all play. But here, one of the things that I love is I love creating Zen, what I call kind of Zen gardens. And you can do this really, really on the low. One of the ways you can do this if you don't have a big budget, you just save like old boxes, any shape can work. You can get some sand, you can collect some rocks, even from nature, and just start collecting them and putting them in bags. And, with students, you can really have them kind of pour some sand in, add some rocks where they want. Maybe there's even like a plant that they just want to put in, and when it dries, they allow it to stay, or maybe they get rid of it and put something new in, right? From their walk to school or outside of a shelter. They can kind of make it their own. And you don't have to buy the little rake thing you see in this photo, right? You can use a fork, right? Just a plastic fork works just as well. And there's something about actually, and this comes really from, if you go to Japan, you will find the most beautiful, when I taught in Japan, even the schools I worked with, they would have these outside of the schools where students would actually participate and do it. And it was so meditative, right? And you're just seeing the lines, you're drawing in it, and it's impermanent, right? And that's part of the beauty. And one of the things I like to remind students, right, is, you're going through this tough time, but eventually, keep holding on to hope, right? Just like this image is going to change. We painted it, it's impermanent, but then something else beautiful you're going to paint, right? And we can kind of teach a lot of symbolism around this as well. The other thing I like about it, a lot of times depending on your situation with homelessness, if you are not in kind of a semi-structured or half moving into permanent housing shelter, you may be on the go, right? Whether you're a youth that's couch surfing or whether you are, moving from encampments, and you don't have a lot of stuff that you can really carry with you. Often it might just be one tote bag, right? And that's your stuff. And that's reality, right? And so the nice thing about this is it can be really small, but it's something that's theirs that they can just kind of keep, and they can kind of tend to this little garden in a way. It's their own little garden, is how I like to paint it. And it's been really healing. Again, not all of these strategies work for every student, but there's some that are going to work really well for one, and you want to expose them so they know, right? What works? What am I gravitating towards? And I like some of these strategies. In my book, I have like, a ton of these strategies. And I really try to teach them in a way that we can do it really on a budget, right? Because again, we don't have a lot of resources sometimes. And we want our students to be able to do this, even if their garden gets thrown away. Hopefully it doesn't. I had a student, though, in an encampment that was really upset because all their family stuff. Criminalization of homelessness is at an all-time high. We have raids. People are going in bulldozers now. I mean, it's horrible. Somebody just in Chicago recently got bulldozed in one of these raids, right? Really painful. But all of their stuff got thrown away, including their garden. But the nice thing is I taught how to make this, right? And so they were able to find a box that was, kind of discarded. They ended up filling it back with sand, rocks, recreating it, taking a fork, and it was something they could do, right? You didn't need a lot of money to do. I am poems. Creative writing is huge. If you've never done kind of creative writing on your own, you might feel stuck, right? So giving some sort of structure can be very helpful for students, such as this example here. So thinking about dignity and gratitude and self-worth, all of this really comes with it. Thinking about restoration. And even this is a gratitude sun. I know we have to close, so I'm going to go fast here. But I'm happy to share more examples at some point. But you can just do a sun, think about all the things you're grateful for. It can be a really beautiful thing. Just remember the benefits of arts integration. Remember to play around and share all of the different strategies with students and even families, right? Families can do this together. And if you have questions, feel free. You can ask them in the chat. You can email me as well. This is my email address. You can also reach out to my dear friends, Taylor, Melissa, Matt, Ben, dear friends at the CSC. And if there's anything I can do to support, please let me know. I'm really, really happy to. And I'm so thankful for every one of you for what you're doing. The child in me, who experienced a lot of trauma, finds a lot of hope because of people like you. So thank you for that. Namaste.